tell my younger self as far as writing stuff? Because a lot of this stuff is organic. You learn it as you go.
It's strange. It's nothing I ever expected.
I want to tell my stories by eliciting emotion in my audience.
So it's an organic process. They sort of layer on top of each other. Each one makes the next layer more obvious to me.
This whole thing could not have gone any smoother.
I usually say squat only in groups of 3. I like to batch them, like squat, squat, squat.
Look, guys, this one's not going to be like normal. It's just not.
Welcome to the Writer's Journey. I'm your host, Lauren Moore, and with me is the mellifluous Kalene Williams.
That's a big difference. It's like, are you talking or are you doing? What's happening here?
We still have all the pets that think, oh, it's time to eat. It doesn't matter if it's 4 a.m.
My name is Walt, and this is Coffee and Concepts on Keystroke Medium.
Hiatus, we are back with a banger of a show. We've got the one and only Chris Kennedy here from CK Publishing with one of his newest up-and-coming authors, William S. Frisbee Jr., author of the Last Marine series. Will the real gods of war please stand up? Please stand up. We're going to be talking the current state of the sci-fi publishing world, what these fellows have been writing recently, and what we're all looking forward to in science fiction in the coming months. Should be fun. So, Chris and Bill, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. That's the first time I've seen the new intro, and man, that rocks. I feel important.
It's so epic.
That's cool. That plays, and I'm like, ooh, wow.
It makes me just want to, like, I'm sitting here dancing in the background. I'm like, yeah, let's get it. Let's get them words.
Nice graphics.
Was all Josh Hayes, the supreme overlord boss.
Big old SOB.
He done good with that. I got to give him that. That was nice.
And we have here who's getting the golf clap of today. Rick Partlow was first.
Yes. Thank you, Rick. Thank you for showing.
And we also have Trucker Charlie in from Minnesota. And the Gillums, Patricia Cora. Yes, he is here, and Scott McGlasson is here. Who else?
Scott.
We've got a show, and we're just so excited to be back. It's been a really restful and fun and energizing summer, but we are ready to start this fall, get rolling, and get rolling. Oh, and Maya's here too. Get rolling with the new season. So welcome everyone. Jay Clifton Slater is here too, and I hope he's got his ice cream. I hope.
No, I want ice cream. He described his ice cream one year at 20 books, and I'm just like, oh, now I want ice cream.
Yes, every time. And Dean is back too. So much has been happening in science fiction, whether it's series getting published or new series coming out on Amazon and Netflix. But what I'm really excited about is CK Publishing, what you guys are writing, what you're getting into right now. So first, let's just hear about what's been going on with your summer and what you're looking forward to in the fall coming up. Chris, can we start with you?
Sure. It didn't seem like it was super busy this summer, but the summer went by in like a heartbeat. So I guess it was busy. My wife had an operation at one point, so that was some of it, and then the recovery from that, and trying to do all the normal stuff and help out more, and not that I don't try and help out anyway, but trying to be more helpful. It really just seemed to make the summer go by super quick. I kept thinking, we do a get together in October, and it was like, I don't have to really work on that yet. And I looked down, I went, oh my God, that's next month.
It's a lot closer than you think.
So I went down there yesterday to go talk to all the folks. It was like, oh my God, it's here already. How did it get to be September?
That's kind of been my summer too, like family and friends and meetups, and just kind of getting back into my my home community and reconnecting with people. We're starting to meet our neighbors. I know. I'm somewhat of an introvert in real life, and now we're walking the dog and we're meeting people around the block. We're meeting people at the dog park. We're having people over for dinner, and I'm just excited to.
Did you move during COVID?
No, I just started trying to be more friendly and hospitable. It's something I've kind of always wanted to do in life, and now I'm like doing it.
We did move. We
You
moved
did?
during COVID. Yeah. So, but we live out in the country, and the other folks, weren't really that worried about it. So we met all of our neighbors. Actually, the person that lives across the street from us was the real estate agent that sold us the house. So we've known her since before we lived here.
Yeah, your sunsets are incredible. The pictures that you've been sharing. You're at the beach, right?
Yeah. It's actually the sun rises because the sunset is behind me.
Right.
I look out my office window across the Currituck Sound at the Outer Banks. We are on the inner banks. I can see the Outer Banks across the water.
Lovely.
Sorry, I had to post it. Well, Robiard is in the chat, and he wants Bill to move that rifle on the wall, sweep the house for ice cream.
Well, it's not a real one, but the ice cream I have to wait. Break it down, but
then share with us. Yeah, we were talking before the show started about sweeping the room. Bill, you've got an excellent book out for anyone looking for military science, like science fiction tactics and equipment and weapons. And I might need that information, actually.
Well, I try to cover everything, but it's such a wide topic. And it's
gorgeous.
Like,
it's huge, and it has like all the things. It's got links to different stuff, and I'm still waiting on the spaceship one.
I'm still working on it. Work in progress. It's over 100,000, but it's still mostly, I think, incomplete. There's so much more that needs more research, because I was infantry. I know infantry tactics, and I just start talking. But spaceships is very different.
You don't go up on your spaceship every day?
No, not really. Not physically.
Sadly.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, who would you go to for your expert advice on spaceships?
In theory, NASA.
NASA.
There's a lot of data, but then by the same token, NASA only goes so far. And then you got the technologies, in the infantry, technology goes so far. But now when you're going to space, you have to take in a bunch of history that doesn't exist yet. As an example, everybody likes to use the Navy as an example. But right now, it's looking like the Air Force is taking more control of that.
Is Space Force part of the Air Force? Is that right?
I think they pulled from the Air Force. But then when you start to look at the actual things, the Navy is outstanding when it comes to large crews and systems and stuff like that. But when you look at spaceships, you're not going to have large crews, because large crews, they need food, they need water, they need air, and that just doesn't translate.
Those are all good things to have when you're in space.
Yes, and you can run out.
Crucial.
And when you look at submarines, how I do a comparison between submarines and spaceships. There's really no comparison, because a submarine, they can pull oxygen out of the water. You don't have that much in space, so there's those differences.
Chris, what do you do to get over those differences and to figure out how you can do it in your novels?
I read more. Talk to smart, sciencey people.
They are worth their weight in gold.
Sorry?
They are worth their weight in gold.
Oh, absolutely. I've got a couple go-to people. James Bell, has done a lot, has been really helpful for me on a number of occasions. Figured out some things for me, and one time he worked it all out, and then I had a Duke professor of physics tell me that it was wrong, and it turned out that the Duke professor of physics was wrong.
Oh no!
And Jim had it, so he's my go-to guy.
Have you ever had a reader help you to come up with a solution to your plot or your tech? Maybe it started out as a criticism, but it became just gold for you later in your next book, or even in that book when you revised it, if you revised it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually where the Duke physics professor came from. Was I had written a book, and he said, he posted a review and said, oh, it's great, except for obviously Mr. Kennedy doesn't understand how antimatter works. So I looked up his name and I found him and I searched him out and I said, okay, smart guy. If I don't understand it, so how about you explain it to me and you QA my next book? And he was like, oh, okay, I can do that. And he did. But what he really did was he was like, oh, you know what? I don't really think I have time. So I'm going to give it to all my graduate students and let them figure it out. And he totally riffed it on them and made it an assignment that they had to QA this, and they ended up doing it wrong.
Oh no!
Thanks.
But they can learn. It's a learning experience, right, for everyone.
Yeah, whatever.
But not with your book. Okay, I guess LinkedIn would be a good. That's probably where I would start if I was looking for experts. To find someone, to search someone out. Because LinkedIn is one of those places where everyone's on it, but they don't necessarily get a good message. So that might be a good start. Maya, she's an editor. She works with a whole lot of science fiction. She says experts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, there are a lot of smart sciencey guys that write for Bain, that are all super approachable, and that's typically who I go to.
Rick Partlow wants to know. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kalene.
No, I was just nodding. I was agreeing. Sorry. No, you're good. Rick Partlow wants to know, how does antimatter work?
When you put it with matter, it goes boom. That's how it works.
Big boom.
That's all you really need to know. It goes boom.
See, that's the thing. We do all this research, and that's all we end up needing to know. But we need to know all the other stuff so that we know we're using it right for the big boom.
Right. Well, I know in my books, I try not to get uber technical, because as soon as you get uber technical, you're going to get something wrong, and then everybody's going to jump on you. And it's like, okay, I don't want to say I like hand wavium, but just don't. Yeah, big bada boom. If you don't get too far down into the weeds, you're probably going to be okay.
Walt says, antimatter is the same as sugar-free ice cream. It exists, but we're not sure why. Hey, I like sugar-free ice cream.
If you're going to go ice cream, give me the sugar, man.
Some of us are stuck with it. And yes.
Yeah.
But it's cold.
All right. And sorry. My throat just decided to go all wonky on me.
No, Kaylene's throat, come back to us.
I've been really excited for because Frisbee is one of your new up and comings. We've got a third one in his Last Marine series coming out in October 14th. I think you guys said it was. And I am super excited for him because I have been pestering him for years to get in and get this freaking series finished and do something with it, because he's been like nitpicking it for like ever, and it took me 1.5 years to get him to let me edit book 1, and then when I finally did, he was like, okay, I guess I do need to like finish this. And then when he told me you picked him up for publishing, I was like, oh, I told you, it's good stuff. And this cover, oh, it's gorgeous. I love the cover.
Gods of War.
Like all of the covers are absolutely amazing. I don't know who the cover artist is, but freaking nailed it.
That would be J. Caleb Design.
You did good, Jay.
Jake's awesome. Jake is awesome.
Yeah. He was at 20 books to 50K.
Yes, he was.
Because I got one of his stickers and it's on my Surface.
Yeah, he's done some of my favorite CKP titles, including these. I love Gods of War as well. that's really cool. He is doing a video of that one, and that was the surprise, Bill.
Cool.
That cover is going to have a video promo kind of thing here soon,
Awesome.
which I'm really looking forward to. I don't know if y'all have seen, he's done a couple of them now where he takes a cover and makes things happen
It's like
around it,
animation.
and it's really super cool. And I commissioned God's of War to get one of those too, so he should have that here pretty soon, I think.
So, Bill, I've seen Gods of War up on Facebook, and I've heard the title, and Kalene is very excited about it. But where did you come up with the idea for it, and what are your plans for this series coming into science fiction and making waves?
Well, I got the idea reading, who was it? Richard Fox. They wrote a book, Right to Market, I think.
Chris Fox.
Chris Fox.
Other Fox. That other Foxy guy.
Yeah, I'm terrible with names, but I knew it was Right to Market. So I just read that, and it's like, I'm going to write a book, follow the trend. And I started going at National Novel Writers Month, and I figure, okay, here's where I want it to start. Here's where I want it to end. So I started writing it about 120,000 words into the month. I realized that I wasn't going to finish it. And then I kept going. And then I got to the point where it's like, okay, this is too long for one book. I got to break it into two. And then the whole concept behind the book, I wanted a world I could build on that's very expansive. So I can do a series on it. And that's where it came from. And I took a lot of different tropes from a lot of different franchises and, things I like and combined it all together. So it's like, nobody's heard of Buck Rogers, but I love Buck Rogers. Yeah. Mix it all together. And it just goes on and
Makes
on.
the world taste good.
So all of your favorite things just kind of in one Space Marine series. And that cover, it says totally Space Marines all over it. So who is your main character, and how is your main character in the Space Marines world going to bring the story together?
So there's a lot of different characters, but the series, there's 6 books in the series right now. They follow a gunnery sergeant, Wolf Matheson. And he's an older, crusty, if you know, who is it? Gunny Highway from Heartbreak Ridge. You get a pretty basic idea of his mentality and the kind of the way he works. He's an older, crusty guy. He's going to be forced to retire. He doesn't like that, but this is going to be his last mission, and he knows it. And it's all about him. He goes into this is going to be my last mission, then I'm going to be forced to retire. And that's not the way it works out for him. So the whole
dun dun dun.
Yeah, I'm trying really hard not to say things.
Yeah. And then he just gets catapulted in the future, and all sorts of bad things happen.
This reminds me of Maverick too, right? We've got someone who's just excellent at his job, but maybe the world's moving on for him, but the mission says otherwise.
His knees are bad. His back hurts from carrying, hundreds of pounds on a ruck.
Excuses. Embrace the suck. Move forward. Let's go.
He
can't sleep all night because he has to get up and pee, old guy stuff.
Ow. That one hits kind of close to home.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks, Bill.
Speaking from experience. Yeah.
So where is the series going? He starts out on this mission, and then he kind of gets sucked in.
Yeah. Then it goes several hundred years into the future because he's going to Europa, and then the ship he's on, it comes under attack. And then he's in stasis, and he doesn't know what happens. So he wakes up hundreds of years later as a prisoner of a very oppressive regime. And then they have to break out, and his whole platoon went, like 30 Marines. But only him and 3 other Marines survived that attack in stasis. So there's a lot going on there. And then as they wake up and they're realizing what's going on, then I start to introduce their characters. So it's the series, it's central to Gunnery Sergeant Matheson, but there's a lot of other characters that come into play. You've got Scotty, who's a oversized Viking ice princess, the commander of a special operations team. And then, one guy that's he'll be in number 3 called Colonel Commissar Fang. He's a Chinese commissar for the social organizational governance. And he is, if you've seen The Expendables, Hans Lanza, that detective, the Nazi detective that's kind of, he seems very nice, but he's also very evil. You know, so that's Fang. You know, and I find him a fascinating guy because it's not about, you know, you always have the good guys, you always have the bad guys. It's about people. You know, sometimes everybody wants to be the good guy, but that's not the way it always works. So as the series goes on, you've got a lot of people trying to make good decisions. Doesn't always end out that way. You know, so it's all these different forces, you know, a lot of conflict, just a lot of bad things happening to good people.
But that's one of the things.
Maya's comment, and just when you think it can't get worse, it does.
Yeah.
That's pretty much like how the whole book goes. It just keeps stacking, and the way that you bring your characters to life, you did really, really well on that. You have like you have a colorful array of personalities. So there's like no two people who are the same. You know, they're butting heads, they're clashing, they're joking, they're crying. And so it's like you get all the emotions. So it really just brings you in. We are coming up close to the half hour. So before I forget, while I'm thinking about it and while we're talking about it, before we move on, this week's spotlight is on Darkness Rising, Book 2 of The Last Marines by William S. Frisbee Jr. United we stand, divided we fall. Having escaped execution by the SOG, Gunnery Sergeant Matheson and his Marines are hunted by an elite governance task force and the entity that escaped from SOG's Special Research Base, 402 Alpha. If they don't warn the Republic in time, humanity is doomed. But the Marines need more information about the entity hunting them. Information the SOG doesn't want them to have. And it's a race against time as their hunters close in. The hunters can afford many mistakes, but the Marines can't make a single one. As the hunters close in on their prey, worlds will burn and ancients will awaken to crawl out of the shadows. The ancients, the Von Hot, are returning, and mankind must unite or perish. Unfortunately, the SOG doesn't want to unite. Get your copy today, or doom. And if you have not read book 1 yet, that link that we just put into the chat does go to both books, because that is book 2 coming out. Book 3 is due October 14th. And if you're wanting to start on this lovely popsicle ride of craziness, Gods of War, pick it up, get it, read it.
And you, I know at the lead-in you were saying the real Gods of War. Because somebody at the same time that this came out, a different book came out with Gods of War. So the next book out is Gates of Hell. There's somebody on the chat that thinks that they have that title. So we'll have to see the real Gates of Hell. Unfortunately, that person is launching his 10 days prior. He must have known Bill's was coming and tried to, you know, beat him to Amazon.
Well, you heard it here first then. Darkness. Wait, no, Gates of Hell, book 3, coming out October 14th. Wait for it.
Yeah.
It's the real Gates of Hell.
You just have to pick up both books and then, you know, bash down the Gates of Hell together. Just smack it together.
And we'll have the art for the 4th book on Monday.
Ooh.
Sweet.
And I think that you have already seen probably that, you know, the first book, Gates of Hell, the first book, Gods of War, you know, you held up. It's got the nice, good-looking Space Marine on it. Then you start to see some of the things that they're fighting, and they get worse.
Yes.
Yeah, so Bill, I'm really curious about your plot. It sounds like you have really strong characters with strong personalities, and they can kind of take the plot in different directions. Did you come up with a plot before you started writing, or is it something that you just, you know, go scene by scene and the scene just kind of unfolds and you follow the characters and the plot to whatever twists and turns they just take you on?
So I'm mostly a pantser, but I know where I want the book to start, and I know where I want it to end usually. All right. So then it's the trial to get from A to B. So I throw them together, and I usually have this thing at the end of every chapter. I ask, well, what's going wrong now? Something's got to go wrong at every chapter. So it'll be going along. It's like, okay, we just got over this. Boom, something bad is happening. Okay, on to the next point of view. Because everything's broken up into points of view. You've got Gunnery Sergeant Wolf Matheson. He's one point of view. So he's there. You get deep into his head, and then he's going through. He's got his section, and then he's, okay, time to take a breather, and then something bad happens. All right, then I break to another chapter and point of view. Same thing. Another character. All right, and then I pick up. So I can kind of follow Matheson through it. So the next chapter with his point of view, it usually picks up solving it. So it's just things keep going bad in sequence.
And you keep the focus on the conflict that way.
Yes.
But make it fresh by starting from a new point of view.
New point of view, but there's a lot of things happening in sequence. So you got Gunnery Sergeant Matheson as an example. He's in a SOG facility. They're just waking him up. He's thawing out. Then we jump over to Scotty. She's light years away, but she's fighting a war against SOG, and she's losing. So, and I think a lot of people found it disruptive because there was this big time jump with Matheson. It's like, okay, now I'm going to get on the ship, and that's it. He's going to get on the ship. Then we jump over to Scotty hundreds of years later, and then she's in a war. She's losing it. She's like a special operations. If you know special forces and the way they work, they usually go in behind enemy lines and they help the local forces fight off whoever they're fighting. That's what she does. But she's losing. The planet's lost. It's already a lost battle. So then it jumps into that, and then it's very disruptive for the user, I think, or for the reader, because it's a sudden shift, a point of view shift. But then they get caught in it, and then I merge them together. So,
yeah, science fiction has a lot of that, where there's multiple point of view characters. I'm reading a Tom Clancy novel. Oh, here you go. Multiple Red Storm Rising, lots of point of view characters. And it can be hard to follow and keep track of that all. Chris, as an author and a publisher and an editor, you're used to like creating books that can be complicated, but you want it to be clear to the reader. So how do you, as an author, or how do you encourage your authors to keep all those details and voices clear so we can have multiple POV shifts without losing the reader?
Well, I think, as long as you have some way to tie them together so that you can make the logical jump from one to the next, I think you're good. And I think Bill does that really well. And if you get lost, you can always look at the chapter head, because it says who you're with now. So there's no mistaking whose head you're in. And then he stays in that head, he's good at not doing the, head jumping, going from one to the next. I like doing that as well. I like being able to show a variety of viewpoints, where you can, get inside of each person's head, feel their feelings. It's one of those things, like when you're talking about a war, sometimes you need the general so that you can see the big picture of what's going on, the ships moving here, the tanks, the whatever. But then jumping to the private in the front lines, where, you get to embrace the suck. You get to feel how bad it is. You feel the war. It's more visceral than the guy standing back moving things around. So, you can get the information you need, but still get that feel, the gritty feel of, man, this sucks.
How do you keep your characters' voices all separate? And maybe, Kalene, this is a question you as an editor can like jump in on too, but how do you make your voices unique and not just kind of sound like, well, I'm writing all of them, right? So they all end up sounding like me. How do you flesh them out and color them up?
Who's that too?
Chris.
Ah, okay. I have notes about each person, and who they are, what they do, what they sound like, and try to stay true to that. So that whoever's swearing swears like they swear, rather than somebody else. And things like that. I read a neat article couple weeks ago about secondary characters and getting into their heads and figuring out what is their purpose. What are they there for? What are they trying to draw all the time? And it's a neat way of looking at the different characters and what they're doing. And if you know what their purpose is and what they're there for, it can let you stay true to them better. Hopefully, that's the plan.
So
I'll leave it to the readers to determine if I'm successful. I think it worked. I don't know. We'll see.
So those notes ahead of time help, and thinking about the character's motivation and also how you're using them in the story to give information or to get that like in the middle of the battle kind of feel. Kalene, as an editor, how do you tighten up the words or like just add revisions to make those characters even more sharp?
When it comes to dialogue, I see everything in my head. So when I'm reading your characters, they literally become this person in my head with their own speech pattern. Maybe I throw on an accent. I don't know why. Sometimes I just feel like the character might have an accent, even if it's not noted in the book. And that's kind of just like how I perceive them. So sometimes come across a bit of dialogue and it's like, well, this sucks. And I'm like, no, it's like, it means that's not quite that character. I don't really know that they would say it sucks. It's just a little just like, nah. This dude over here would definitely say that, but maybe not this one. So that's one way that you can look at your characters and make them a little separate from each other is really in the word choices that you're picking for them to say. So everyone is not sounding exactly the same. Why, yes, we are kind of all sounding exactly the same. It's, there's a little bit more color. Some people, are saying nothing instead of nothing. It's a little vibe. I call them vibes. You got to vibe it.
So picking up on those vibes and really like picturing them in your imagination. That's something that science fiction, I think, does well, is have all these different characters and worlds and lets the imagination roam. So talking about science fiction as a genre, what you're seeing in series coming out, whether it's on TV or on the internet or in book form, what are some things you're excited about with the science fiction genre and maybe some new things that are coming out? Chris, with your publishing house,
I'm going to let Bill take one. Bill, I don't watch a lot of TV, so I work a lot, and I can tell you what's coming out in CKP.
Well, we'd love to hear that, and also what the readers seem to be interested in. So, like, which books or which series seem to be really hot among the readers right now? If you're seeing any kind of trends at CK Publishing.
Yeah, Mill Sci-Fi is still as hot as it could get. I think if you look at the Dragon Awards last week and you look at the Mill Sci-Fi category, that was a bloodletting. It's like any one of those could have won, and everybody would have been like, hooray, because they were all so good, whether it was Cheney Maggart, whether it was Haskell, whether it was, Weber, Zahn, like they ever would win one of those. But all of the folks in there were so good. The stories were great. And I think, at the end of the Dragons, everybody went, yes, give us more. Well, yes, I'll have that one and that one and that one and that one. You know, and I think you see that with Bill's Last Marine series. I mean, that's doing super well. It's you know, staying up at the top of the charts, and you know, selling lots of copies. You know, those type of things, you know, really have the gritty feel to them. I think are things that readers, you know, are particularly interested in right now, which is why Bill's doing so well.
And realistically gritty. It's not just, you know, people are dying for the sake of dying and describing heads blowing off and for the sake of heads blowing off. It's realistic. They're blowing off because there's two sides, you know, fighting against each other. And that guy probably should not have walked into the middle of the battlefield.
Not only that though, I think what we're seeing is more a return to values that kind of went away for a little while.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Is there's more focus on that rather than
like the second Top Gun. Why was that so popular? Well, because all of a sudden it wasn't trying to preach any sort of morals, you know. Okay, maybe there was a little hand wavium to some things there, but whatever. You know, it was about being a leader. It was about doing the right things. You know, it was a return to values that, you know, kind of went away for about 20 years. And I think everybody was like, yeah, a movie that's just fun and teaches you to look at, you know, the common good, to go out and do things that are going to help society, and, you know, not think about yourself, think about the team. You know, and that's, you know, the best military units. You're not fighting for the people back home. You're fighting for the guy next to you, and you know, doing your best for your buddy, and that's, you know, something that I think, I don't want to say is coming back into vogue, because for some of us it never went away. I mean, I know that those are the types of stories that I've told, you know, ever since I started writing. But I think that society in general is starting to come back around to, you know, thinking about more than just yourself, or I hope so anyway.
Yeah, well, we've all together been through, seen some hard times, and you know, you find that hard work, persistence, courage, it does pay off. Like, it can be a slog, and self-sacrifice might be involved, but for you, there are things that are more important and give you more value and maybe a kind of happiness than just self-indulgence along the way. And yeah, I saw that in Top Gun. Is he's willing to put himself and his interests aside for the team, like you're saying. And we see that in the fiction. Bill, what are you excited about in science fiction? The series that are coming out, the stuff that you're reading, the stuff that you're excited to write. What's exciting?
Well, kind of along those lines. I like to see the return to old school, as I like to think of it. I mean, I could show you my walls are just
keep
books,
that,
you know?
no. Sorry.
You know, it's like everything, Starship Troopers, Forever War, things like these. These are classics, and I like to see those. I'm seeing more of those coming back, I think. You know, what I've read. So it's like, you know, Chris said, Maverick was great because it's not pushing an ideology. These are just good old-fashioned values, and that's what I like to see coming out, you know, moving forward. And I think we are seeing a resurgence on that. You know, people want to see, you know, what were things like. You know, we're tired of being preached to. We just want a good story, is a lot of it.
I like that you said the word good too. I'm seeing in the indie community a stronger emphasis on good writing. Like, not just pumping out books fast, but writing a quality story, you know, quality prose, an interesting plot, you know, plot twists, and giving the reader something good. And I think, again, Dragon Con really proves that authors are trying to up their game and write good stuff, and the competition is getting fierce. But it's not zero sum. Like, we can read all of these books and enjoy all of these stories, you know, or at least a bunch of them in the time that we have.
We can try.
We can try.
Well, and I think that that there is a focus on that. I know that all of our authors talk about writing better, getting better, doing better. If you saw Craig Martell's post
I did.
today, he's going to slow down consciously next year to try and write higher quality stories. And I don't think he's not the only one that's trying to do that. And I think that that will whatever Craig does, a lot of people follow, and I think that that can only be good for sci-fi and mill sci-fi as a whole.
Yeah, we have a comment from Facebook user. He brings up The Dark Knight. People thought it was good for being dark. It was good because you put a moral hero in the dark in a gritty setting and showed that holding on to good values is worth it no matter the cost.
Agree 100%.
Yeah.
We had another question. This one is from Scott McGlasson. He asked, what genres or subgenres are dead right now? So kind of the opposite of what's hot. What's just like not really touching it.
Off the top of my head, I saw that go through and I was thinking about it. I'm like, I don't know. What I'm happy about is I'm seeing a lot more sci-fi on the top of the sci-fi charts rather than the peck fic. All of the paranormal sci-fi romance stuff. I'm seeing
they really
a lot
need their
more
own genre.
Yeah. Which makes me happy. I mean, it's nice to have sci-fi on the sci-fi charts again.
Do you think that's evidence of like a readership change? Like maybe more readers coming into the market or different kinds of readers, or like an actual shift in reader interest?
I don't know. I'd love to have something bright and, be able to pull up a bunch of stats and say, well, this is it and this is why. I don't know. It could be anything from any of those that you just said. It could be that, maybe Amazon is doing a better job slotting them somewhere else, which would be wonderful. I don't expect that that's actually what's happening, but, I'm hoping that it's, there's a resurgence of people looking for good quality sci-fi because, on a daily basis, that's what I'm trying to put out with CKP. And I know that all of the authors that write for CKP, that's what they're trying to write. So.
Yeah, it could be that we're teaching the Amazon algorithm to look at actual sci-fi. It could be that they're adding categories, but I hope you guys are seeing like your readership expanding at CKP too.
Yeah. Well, Frisbee's freaking crushing it because his book 1 is still in the top 50 in 2 of the categories and top 30 in another category. So he's crushing it. Give you another clap. Yeah, told you all your doubts. Yeah.
Yeah, he keeps saying, "Hey, is it doing okay?" Yeah, it's doing good.
It's doing really good.
It's doing really well. Yeah.
Yeah, that peck fake is still there. I check it daily.
All right, D Knight asks, Bill and Chris, what do you think will be the most important development in publishing in the next 5 to 10 years?
Important, does it have to be good?
A good development for publishing?
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
I think that one of the things that's been biggest in our chat here recently is the advent of the Mid-Journey art.
Mm-hmm.
The AI art?
And the AI,
yeah, the AI art. And some of the things that you can do with that, there's some amazing art that's coming out of it. I'm not sure that I like what that does to the amazing artists that I like to send my money to get good covers from. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure. I'm ambivalent. I like what some of our folks have been able to create, and I think that's neat. I'm worried about what effect that'll have on artists.
Can you see them using AI art to, I don't know,
People are using it now.
Yeah.
but the artists themselves to kind of like flesh out what a piece that they're already doing and do it like quicker and faster or something?
Maybe. I think that, you know, will we end up going that way? Maybe. You know, at the moment, you know, everybody's still trying to figure out, you know, what is good, what is bad, you know, is it, you know, how do I keep my creativity, you know, and make it mine, or is it this AI that's doing it, you know? So there's a lot that goes into that discussion. And I know that, you know, a lot of people are rushing to bring it in faster than I'm comfortable with. I hate to sound like the old fuddy-duddy, but I'm, you know, I'm worried about the people whose livelihoods depend on creating good art, who've been good to me and good to the authors, you know, that I support, and I don't want to see them, you know, just cast aside. You know, I love what, you know, Bill Webb, one of our authors, and Jamie Ibsen. You know, we've got a couple folks that love playing with that and have created some amazing art. You know, things to go with their books, and that's cool. And I just, you know, people are starting to go, hey, when are we gonna start using this for covers? I don't know. You know, there's still some issues with, you know, who owns the rights, and you know, who. I don't want to get hung up on something that I don't own the rights to, but you know, I'm also worried about artists and art and other creatives.
I will say I do think the cover artists and other traditional artists I think they're going to be okay. And I'm mainly saying this because as an editor, there are so many programs out there that an author can take, and they can get analytics on their words. They can get shown repetitive things. Basically, everything that I do when editing, you can, you know, find through these programs and do it yourself. But at the end of the day, having that human touch is really what's going to help like tip the scale. Because like you don't spend all the hours that me and Lauren spend, you know, going off balance. Is it with or without a dash? Where does this comma go? Is this word used correctly? You've used this 5 times in one page. We need to come up with 3 separate options. You know, it's we bring it that human touch and can dig into it like an author in your brain. So I think the artists are going to ultimately be okay. The AI stuff's going to find its place in the world, just like, you know, the self-editing programs have found their place in the world, but we editors we're still needed. Y'all still love us. So
for how long?
Don't say that.
I think it'll be a while, because editors, and one thing I've learned, I've used most of these tools to go through and edit, but editors have they look at a bigger picture. So they can say, okay, well, you've got a plot hole here, you've got an issue here. Programs aren't going to pick up on that. They're not going to see that. And in reference to the AI art, it looks great, but I think the artists are really going to be able to hang in there. Maybe not as well, or maybe this will help them. But the thing with a cover artist is they also have to worry about fonts, font placement, and things like that. You're not going to get that with the AI. The AI is going to spit out a cover, but it's not going to coordinate the fonts for that genre. Right. And that's where you're really going to need a artist, because they're going to understand things like that and match fonts to genre, to cover, and things like that. AR art is nice, but
right. And we'll always need you, Kalene, because as Josh said, he puts commas everywhere.
How dare you, Josh? At least they're not semicolons. I had an author once that used semicolons like a comma. So many. They're all over the place.
Yeah, I remember.
I like semicolons, though. I mean, I like them. I think that there's a place for them.
You know what? They're great. They're amazing. Same with the colons. You know, they've got their place. Just not as common.
Ben Franklin said, all good things in moderation.
Yep.
Joanna Penn back in 2015 or 2016 was talking about AI programs writing novels. And she was saying she's looking forward to becoming like a cyborg, just being able to use these tools as an author, you know, as a human author, and just to use them to make your job quicker, faster, or so you can focus on a different aspect of writing. And I think that's could happen with the artists too. They could focus on the main picture of the cover, but not have to worry about all the background stuff that wraps around the whole cover into the back cover. And that's something that the AI could pick up on. Just like with Kalene and I, a little bit of the copy editing lifting can be done with Pro Writing Aid. You can get, you know, final typos get solved, but I'm still going to read that book even multiple times because I still have to be able to help out the plot and to help out the characters. And that's something that the AI just isn't able to do. So it's got its place. It's a tool. It's another tool.
Yeah, and talking on like genres that you were saying, Frisbee, cover artists, they know the genres. They watch the genres. They're watching what's in the top hundreds. You know, they're not doing all the genres. There's like specific sci-fi cover artists, fantasy, there's the romance ones and everything else in between. You know, the AI art's going to spit out something cool, but like your Picasso looking mountain range with some trees and people walking through, you know, might not be great for, you know, Susie Needs a Man type book. So we still need the cover artists because they're going to help you sell your book. You know, that cover is the first thing readers are going to see, and you want them to see it and know what they're getting into. And me as just your general author editor, I don't have that gift of knowing when, like, yes, this is hitting the market perfectly to create it. I know this because I went through 5 covers of my first series and failed every single one of them. So I will always trust my cover artists. They are not going
anyway. You asked what I thought would be an important change. I think that'll be an
Yeah.
important change. And how AI comes in and how we use it and adapt what we do.
Any other new trends in science fiction that you're excited about? Whether it's how we're crossing into like new media with Amazon Prime putting out new series and
yeah, I'm excited about that. I can't wait for them to come grab the 4 Horsemen universe and
yes.
make that into a Netflix miniseries because I totally can hook them up with that.
The new Dune movie is killing it, and I hope it's going to set like a trend. Like there are other science fiction universes out there, like the 4 Horsemen, that could be turned into good series. So who knows what could come next? Are there new?
I think the Last Marines would be a neat series as you go along and see some of the places, you know, and you see some of these dystopian kind of settings, and I think there's a lot of room to really play with that and have a good time making that, you know, into a series.
Bill, we did have a question that was asking about geopolitics. Have geopolitics influenced you in the writing of your series? Not
current geopolitics. No, I read a lot of history from both sides of the fence. So it just fascinates me the way certain things work. But current geopolitics, no. But historically, yes.
It's like human nature kind of stays the same.
Yeah. And you know, you've got the SOG, and the best way to describe them is space Nazis. I guess is the best way to
They really are.
Yeah, they're not nice people. And they're really all about taking control and all of that. But one of the things when studying the SOG is I went through and I looked at what's going on and what's happened in the real world. You know, I look at the way China is using digital manipulation and they're controlling their population. And then I've looked at, history, and a lot of people, they'll read history. They'll say, okay, yeah, Americans won Battle of the Bulge. What were the American commanders like? What was going through their mind? But not many people actually go look and see what was going through the Nazis' mind. How did they view things? We know that they were bad guys, all right, because we see all the videos and stuff like that. But what about the average soldier on there? What was it like for them? They didn't know what was going on in the concentration camps. They didn't know a lot of other things. They thought they were fighting the good fight. So it's interesting. And that's what I dig into. How did they see it? How did they view the world? How did they view their government? And a lot of them were like, we're on the right side. We're doing the right thing. And then you've got the politics of it. I try to stay out of that specific politics. I take examples, like the Nazis, National Socialists. So I kind of delve into that. But then there's still a lot more to it. There's no one size fits all for anything.
I just to agree with you on that. My wife's step grandfather was a commando for the Germans in World War II. If when the British captured Mussolini and the Germans went in and took him back, he was one of the squad leaders for that group. And to his dying day, he swore that concentration camps were completely made up and it was Allied propaganda and just a load of crap.
Wow.
So, yeah, absolutely.
I had an senior Army instructor in high school for JROTC, and he said that the Nazi soldier was one of the best soldiers in the world. And this is a Special Forces colonel, mind you, telling students that the Nazi soldier was one of the best soldiers in the world and were vastly better than American soldiers. And it's like, dude, you're an American. We're here in Germany, but still you're an American. Shouldn't you kind of be doing that? So that kind of like made me start thinking and start looking. And there are stories out there about Nazi soldiers and what they saw and what they experienced in the war. And it's a very fascinating way to go and look at that. So you saw what they were told, what they believed, and all of that, and then you can bring it in. So it's not geopolitics now. I try to avoid that. It's very divisive. I've got my own opinions, but
really,
yes, they're very strong opinions. But again, I do try to stay out of it. But I do focus on history and the way history has played a role in everything.
Yeah, your villains don't look in the mirror and go, "I am a villain," right? They think they're heroes too. Oh, yeah. It just happens to look like current geopolitics, right? Because we're looking at politics on Facebook and we're going, everyone. There's conflict there. There's two completely opposing sides, and both sides think they're heroes. We don't think we're villains, and that's what science fiction, I think, tries to figure out and sort through and explore and push against so well. Scott, he points out, you don't want to get into current geopolitics now. Wait until the current zeitgeist ebbs. And you want your novel to kind of transcend time and place and not just be locked into one current political thing that's going on.
Well, not only that, but you don't want to sell to just half the people. I want to sell books to everybody. I want everybody to buy the books
and enjoy them and love them.
Right. I don't want to artificially limit my audience by getting too deep into the politics and saying, okay, this is my one thing that I believe. There are authors that do that, Larry Correa, who do that really well and have built a great readership on that. It's great if you have that readership already and they believe in you and want to follow you, regardless of what you say. That's awesome. But for, a lot of the CKP authors that are just starting out, I don't want them to limit themselves to only selling to half the people that they could.
Yeah, I'll say that's definitely one thing I'm seeing in the MILF sci-fi scene with what books I have read or been reading is there's more than just one take with the characters. You're seeing it from both sides. You're you're not just having the characters believe in the wide picture, what we see, as the reader, everything that's going on. It's more hyper focused, and getting both of those sides really just like sucks you in. I think that's one of the reasons why more people are kind of like turning towards the middle sci-fi, is we're getting that broad picture with this tight scope, and it's making us think. We've reached a point where we want to think more while we're being entertained, and it's a delicate balance, and one that a lot of authors out there are really starting to nail. So good job, everybody. All your words, your practice, you did it.
Josh Hayes says he tried to go for that too in Strikers War, showing the insurgency as bad guys at first, and then showing what the House of Reason had done to them, forcing them to act out. So you can learn empathy for those characters. You might, as a reader, even like change your mind. And maybe...
Well, and hopefully that, as an author, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to show people that, oh, look, here's the good guys, here's the bad guys. But wait, maybe they're not. And Casey Azell does that really well in the Minds of Men series, if you've ever read that. It starts out the setup for this is World War II. The bomber war is going really bad for the U.S. So the U.S. puts female psychics on the B-17s, and that allows them to make the crews work better together. And so the lead character is this American, and she's wonderful, and there's an evil Nazi psychic, and she's awful, and she's trying to kill them, and in the second book, she's the main character. And you go into it wanting to hate her, and you realize, oh, wow, okay, I like her. Wait, maybe she's better than, and she's done that with some of the races in the Four Horsemen universe, where there's a race of basically werewolves. And, oh, they're mean, they're awful, they're nasty. And she tells a short story, and you're like, oh, they're just misunderstood. No, they're not. But, she makes you empathize with them. And that's, that's the power of being a good author, and, making readers think about, oh, wait, I didn't see that.
All right, so while your characters are having a character arc, the reader can have one too. Whoa!
Yeah. Woo!
Boom!
Boom!
Someone put that on.
There's that antimatter. Boom! Boom!
Yeah, I'm seeing that in science fiction, where some authors are bringing their favorite things that they love about politics too into their stories, and they're grappling with it there, and they're exploring it. And other authors, you're digging into history, you're digging into human nature, you're bringing back those stories that we've loved for generations and centuries, and you're putting them into a new futuristic setting. It's exciting to explore.
And with that, I think there is so much more to explore in military sci-fi, all the other sci-fis, in your fantasies, even in your romance. It has its place, and there's still so much to explore. Get your minds out of the gutter. All right, Chris, Bill, thank you so much for joining us and letting us pick your brain and show off pretty books. Sorry,
Hey,
this one, I have a soft spot for this one. I tore it apart and then put it back together.
You did a wonderful job. The
really
readership is better for you.
Yes.
All right. And with that, everyone in the chat, thank you for joining us. Be sure to check out, and I'm forgetting names. No, go back to where I want you to be. Check out Darkness Rising, book 2 in the Last Marine series. If you haven't started it, go get Gods of War, because Gates of Hell, book 3, is coming out in October 14th. 14th. You do not want to miss it. We will be back towards the end of the month with, is that the Yanezes?
Yes.
Right? Yes, with the Yanezes.
On the 30th.
On the 30th, we are going to be digging in their brain with their cool stuff going on. They just put out, they just finished, rather, I don't know if it's out, the pilot of their TV series that they've been doing, their Netflix series.
It's huge.
And
that is cool.
And
Yeah,
I will
that's what
say
I'm
I've
excited
seen
about
it.
coming on TV.
I've seen it, and it's awesome, and I am really super excited for them. Yeah, so I'm gonna get off here.
And they're great people too.
Oh,
I'm
they're
gonna
so nice.
throw that out there. They're great people, and they deserve all their success, their hard work, and just awesome.
All right, thank you,
Okay,
Chris. You're good. Thank you, Frisbee. Go check out CK Publishing and all the things they've got going on. They've got books coming out the wazoo as well. Me and Lauren are also going to get back on the writing horse, and hopefully we'll have more updates on that for you guys. Be sure to check us out next time, as well as the guys over on live, sometimes on Mondays at some point. They will be back as well with more reading, writing, and everything in between right here in Keystroke Mediums, The Writer's Journey.